Who's hosting?
Me, and we're recording. Hiya, welcome. Great start as always. Welcome to the Sticky Floor podcast, folks. I am once again Callum, and I'm joined again by Sima.
All right.
And Daniel, you're back from the dead.
Hey, I am once again Daniel, as you put it, Cal. So welcome.
Yep. What was up with you, just out of interest, if that's not too personal?
I had a migraine. I had like a 4-day migraine, and I lost tons of weight. And then I kind of put it all back on. So I'm a bit gutted. But oh well.
Swings and roundabouts.
Right.
And we've got another guest this week with the lovely Melissa. Hi, Melissa.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. Right, so this week's film is Wish You Were Here from 1987, directed and written by David Leyland. It's another British effort. I'll recommend an American film at some point. And the plot is as follows. In a staid seaside town after the Second World War, young Linda grows up with her widowed father and younger sister. Rebellious Linda, there was no comma there, has been swearing constantly from an early age. At 16, she becomes more exhibitionist and seeks out sexual encounters, challenging the prevailing lower middle class attitudes to sex. Is she heading for trouble? Right, folks, from the top, Daniel, what did you think of this film?
I don't really know, to be honest. I was kind of hoping this conversation would give me a better, viewpoint, because I just don't understand whether or not I think this is a bad film with good moments or just a good film.
With bad moments?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we'll come back to you then. Sima, what did you make it? Actually, before I go on, have any of you actually seen the film before?
No.
Oh, good. It's always good. Fresh eyes. Sima.
I really enjoyed the film. I just rewatched it there again, so it's fresh in my mind. And on second watching, obviously you kind of know what's happening, but it's still kind of it. I like how the narrative of it is quite naive and kind of follows our protagonist in a way, because she does feel she is very naive as a person in a quite very repressed society. It's interesting, and it kind of stays with you, that kind of innocence, but like a kind of, she's almost as if she's trying to reject it, but it's obviously not going away. I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good film.
Cool. And finally, Melissa, could you give us a sort of summation of your thoughts, and then we'll get
No, I really enjoyed it as well. I almost finished it. I think I had like 10 minutes left, so I was just rewatching it as well. Really enjoyed it both times. I feel like I haven't seen a character like Linda before, especially around that time period, I guess. So it was awesome to see something new.
Great. I love this film. I just love the energy, the youthful energy of it. I think Emily Lloyd, I should have said stars in it. I think her performance is just amazing. I'm really glad that they actually got a 16-year-old to play a 16-year-old, which often the case with films is they get somebody who's too old to play a teenager. And she sort of encapsulates both that cusp of adulthood and but at the same time, she's still very much a child. And she just really manages to balance that in her performance, and it's quite a physical performance, because she's leaping about and dancing and preening and all that. And yeah, at the same time, I do have certain doubts about maybe what they were trying to say with the film, but we'll kind of touch into that, because sometimes I kind of wonder what the message, if there is one, behind this film is, and maybe if they got that across in the best way they could. But we'll kind of get down to the nitty-gritty of that. What am I going to say? Where should I start? Yeah, I'll just go with that. Did any of you feel like, one thing that I suppose, I don't know if this was deliberate, but I got the sense of the idea is she supposed to just be a free spirit in a repressive environment? because she is also incredibly reckless, and her behaviour, even by today's standards, would be very weird and exhibitionist. Like, you know what I mean? Like showing her pants at the bus depot and all that. Like when I watched this with my mum. Sorry,
Sorry.
I was going to say, even when I watched this with my mum years ago, and we got to that scene, my mum turned to me and said, "She's seriously disturbed."
Yeah, I think she's a child dealing with a lot of trauma in a repressed society, and she's acting out for attention, which is like what a lot of people with childhood trauma do. I think she's just a very she has all these emotions and all, she's clearly an assertive character anyway. So on top of that, in a kind of bottleneck society, she's kind of just exploding and not knowing what to do with it all. So she's just trying to get as much as attention as she can get because she was clearly never given it as a child.
Yeah.
It's like a cry for help, the entire movie.
But it's also shown that before her mum passed away that she was like that. Well, I mean, she wasn't behaving in an overtly sexual way, but you know what I mean? She was foul-mouthed and all that and kind of attention-seeking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She's clearly base level. There's a big character underneath that as well, but how that character is being, how that's being released is, instead of being just, learning how to kind of handle her emotions and put a handle on her language and kind of grow as a person because of the trauma and the neglect, that's just gone haywire. And now it's just all over the place because she's never learned how to kind of manage that side of her, or not manage, just kind of understand when there's an appropriate time for it or not.
Yeah. Daniel, were you about to add something there?
No, I think I was just agreeing about the bus stop thing. However, that was a really funny scene. That's probably my favourite scene in the entire thing. Do you like Marks and Spencer's? That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's also a funny thing that Marks and Spencer's underwear was fancy once upon a time. Not anymore. Really isn't anymore. I'm afraid to say.
Yeah, but see, when you're just talking about that there, I would kind of disagree and say that a lot of girls I know, 16-year-olds, coming out, and it's kind of just realizing you can do it whatever the fuck you want. Mainly when she's sober when she's doing this, so which I guess is why maybe it seems a bit alarming. But I mean, most drunk lassies do that when they're coming out. So do drunk boys, by the way. But
yeah, it's just that back then it was it was the 50s. It was a comparatively conservative era.
Sure.
So here's the kind of thing. Here's where I think there's the kind of clash of ideas. Is she lives in a very conservative time, very staid, as I just said in the description. But could you not argue that had she not conformed to the sort of 1950s cultural morality, she wouldn't have gotten the bother that she did? So in a way, aren't they right? I'm not saying that they are, but
that's the argument of the film. Why should she have to conform to that? Why should she have to adapt to their behavior when it's clearly so repressive and damaging? None of those people that conform to it are happy. They're just kind of accepting the life they're living. Whereas she does have pure moments of happiness, whereas we don't see that reflected in any other character. Why should she live in, kind of honest? Obviously, her behavior is not perfect, but I feel like the film's trying to argue that, in a less repressed society, she would be, it's about that kind of, instead of ignoring the problem, she would actually be able to talk about things, and she herself would mellow out in a way, instead of them all trying to force her to stop.
I wish I was more like Linda. I thought she was dope, man.
Yeah.
I thought she was awesome. I think it was just how she was, just part of her character.
Yeah. There's actually kind of interesting backstory behind this film. This film was actually a result. The writing process of this film was actually for another film, so this film is loosely. So David Leyland was writing a film loosely based on a woman called. Should get the name up. Should write all this down, but I never do.
Amateur hour, honestly.
Yeah. Yep. We'll find a way, folks. We'll find a way. Just finding our feet.
Just while you're looking.
Yep. Cynthia Payne. She was basically she was a an English brothel keep madam and party hostess who made the headlines in the 70s and 80s when she was convicted for running a brothel at 32, and she became like kind of a cult figure.
Legend.
So, yep. Sticky Floor Podcast does not condone prostitution. Just to make that clear.
Why shouldn't we?
Yeah, trying to get our ad revenue up. Yep.
Okay.
So this was originally the film, which is called so the film they were writing, which eventually became a film called Personal Services, which starred Julie Waters. Basically, Wish You Were Here was born out of, initially in that script they were going to show her childhood, but then he ended up writing like 100 pages of that, and then they just decided, all right, this is taking up too much of the script, we'll just cut that out. But then that became another film in of itself. So there's two films loosely based on the character. So Linda is basically this future brothel madam.
I'm glad that they did cut the child part out, because I thought the most boring part of the film was the flashback.
Yeah. That was kind of one of my first initial niggles, is that that flashback came a wee bit too early. Like, we've only just introduced this character, and now we're already getting a flashback.
It could have waited a few more scenes.
Yeah. Interesting thing as well, right? You see, the lassie who played her younger sister was the director's daughter. And no, but that's not the interesting part. The two lassies that played those two characters when they were younger were actually the younger sisters of the character, of the actresses playing the older versions of the character.
That makes a lot of sense. I did think it was really good casting.
Yeah. So that was good. Where were we before I started going on about the backstory of the script?
Well, just talking about the character. Another thing I would say about the character, the protagonist, is that if this film was set in like the 70s or 80s, I feel like she would just turn to drugs, but she doesn't have drugs in the 50s.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing I like about this film. Like, this film could have very easily been a tragic story and really depressing, and it isn't. And you can still, and although I do feel like, especially with the ending, and we'll get to that, I do feel like maybe they soften it up a bit too much. You know, it's good that they can tell the story without just being unremittingly bleak. And I kind of like how they sort of show the kind of initial introductions to introduction to sexuality for a young character. Like, especially in that kind of time period where, so from what I've heard, for like women who were like very young in the 40s or 50s, just when they came to their first sexual experiences, they really just didn't know anything, or they hadn't been told anything, because it never got talked about. So it was good showing that. All right, Daniel, I want to come to you. Like, so what was it really that? What? So your take was you couldn't tell whether it was a bad film with good moments or just a good film.
Yeah, just to elaborate, I guess the first 20 minutes was kind of boring for me. Then it really picked up, basically that Marks and Spencer scene. Then from that point on, it kind of felt more like a hangout film set in the 50s than it did, actual like journey of any kind. It didn't. The plot just felt very loose, and I enjoyed that. Then, so up until a certain point, I thought this is fucking brilliant. Then the ending just kind of took it all away, and I kind of like we should just talk about the ending, I guess. The ending to me just felt like pro-abortion. No, sorry.
Pro-abortion.
No.
Anti-abortion.
An anti-abortion advert.
Okay. I would say that's a bit of a stretch. So,
wow.
This is so the thing I find about the ending is that, she has that meeting in the cafe with her auntie, who gives her some slightly harsh but very, very sensible and practical advice for the time she's living in. You're 16 and you're alone with a child, and nobody's going to want you, and nobody's going to take you in, and nobody's going to look after you. And so, if you know where you can get rid of it, here's some money, do it. Right. And so she goes to do it, and then I can't remember. Did we see her walking away, or did it then just cut to the next scene, leaving it in ambiguous for a few moments?
I think it just left it ambiguous.
Okay. So then we see her, which I'm going to guess is a year later, because the baby's a few months old and she's only 3 months pregnant before that. So we'll say close to a year later. She gets off the bus back in her hometown, and she's all done up. She's got a nice yellow dress. She's got makeup. She's got fancy gloves, and she's got a pram with a baby. And she walks through towns, and the entire cast see her walking by, and she's all proud and said, "Yeah, it's mine." Like that, and then it kind of ends with her chapping on her dad's front door, and I like that. I like that touch, that we don't really see that final interaction between her and her father, and that's kind of left to our imagination. I like that touch. What I don't like about it is that realistically, given her own sort of financial situation, like, prams are expensive. Would she come back a year later, like, looking as good as she did? I mean, unless you found a man who had money. Yeah.
I think that's kind of like, where has she gone with this? Because she does look, compared to like last time we see her where she's working at a cafe, screaming and shouting, she does seem like she's found like money and like maybe some luck somehow. And it's just, I like how that's slightly ambiguous to like where she is in life now.
Do you not think it maybe was a bit too much of a rosy ending? I
mean, yeah, I thought it was incredibly like optimistic and like very shiny happy, but I still liked it because so much of the stuff, like so much of the media I consume is so fucking dreak at the end. It was a nice change. And I don't think it was like a pro-life thing. At first I was like, yeah, that's, but then thinking about it, it makes sense for her, as a character, to go against the wishes of the people around her, first of all, and second of all, but then there's also the kind of argument, is like, is this baby, like, what does it represent? Like, is it saying that all she needed in life was a child to like mature? Is motherhood like the only path for her? So that's the qualms I have with it, although I did like the idea of her, like, kind of wanting a child at such a young age and stuff, and like kind of wanting to bond with something that was truly hers. On the other hand, I'm like, like, is that the end message? Is it just what motherhood is supposed to like mature her as a person?
Well, right, can I just make my point as to why I think it's a pro-abortion advert? Sorry, anti-abortion advert.
Anti-abortion.
Yeah.
I believe that because as a writer, you have the responsibility to make the decision for the character, and when you elevate the situation to be, you're either going to get this abortion or you're not going to get this abortion, and you end it where not getting the abortion and they're very happy and it's all fucking perfect. That is that's the writer saying, she's made the right decision, is it not?
Well, I don't think David Leyland is an anti-abortion person. Like, he's pretty left-wing. I don't know. I mean, that's just the thing. It's her choice at the end of the day, and if she made the choice and she becomes happy in the end, then, all power to her.
Yeah, it's about a woman's kind of choice to do so, and she had the option, and she did consider it, but she chose, like, it's not, I personally don't think that was the message at the end of the film. I understand how you could think that, because at first I did kind of, let that thought be a possibility, but when you like watch the rest of it, it's very still much her choice to have this child. It's about a young woman who hasn't had much authority over her sexuality, like, kind of choose something and choose an outcome from it.
Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I can see why you thought that, to be honest, but I don't know, throughout the whole movie I just sort of thought, she's totally her own person. She doesn't care what other people think. She's going to make her own decisions, so including that decision.
Right.
Yeah.
What
did you think of the ending as a whole, just like how it went from...
it was very rosy. It was like the end of Grease or something.
They didn't fly off into the clouds in the car.
Yeah, it was, yeah. To be honest, like, I think I kind of felt the same way. Like 20 minutes and I was like, oh, this is going to go dark. This is going to get messed up, something awful is going to happen to her. So I was kind of expecting that to happen, like throughout the movie, I guess. So when it was all happy ending, I was like a tiny bit disappointed that there wasn't a bit more drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what you were saying, Sam, about the fact, or you were both saying it, sorry, about it, how she's their own person, she's going to make her own decisions. So, is that the moral of the story? Then you shouldn't change for anyone, then, because she does, at the end of the day, she does make her own decisions. So she didn't really change at all. So
It's to not be, it's not to be kind of caged away if society keeps, forcing that upon you. It's to stay true to yourself and understand like your wants and needs as a person, and
yeah,
understand the flaws in the society that you're living in. At least that's what I think.
I mean, she should make some changes as a person. You shouldn't sleep with dirty old men. I think that's
no, but that's also his fault. He shouldn't be sleeping with children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah. That scene. You see, when she finally came,
That's just,
I kind of love how even when, because he's quite a mysterious character throughout the first half. In fact, the first time I watched it,
he's a grotty bastard.
But he plays it very well, and he's very believable.
Yeah, he's repulsive.
Yeah.
First time I watched it, like he's actually in one of the opening scenes, like he's in the barber's chair for when our dad's cutting his hair, like, and he then just kind of appears intermittently throughout it, like watching her, follows her to the house where her boyfriend takes her. Yeah, and then there's finally that scene where he comes to the house whilst her dad's out, and then he sticks her hand up her skirt, and as horrifying as that could have been, I kind of love how she's just not intimidated by him whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like she's not cowed by him at all, and she kind of, and she's still, after a while, well, not that long a while, she doesn't kind of cave into him. She doesn't go out. She doesn't meet him out at the shed right away.
Yeah, I do like how, she's not kind of written to be like, not necessarily, I mean, not to be fearing, I mean, she should fucking fear him, to be honest, he's a nasty bastard, but, she doesn't back down, and she's still, like, she handles the situation in a way that's very believable for a person.
But, But when she eventually does sleep with him, like when they go in the shed and she kisses him, I just remember watching that thinking, what the fuck are you doing, girl? Like, it is like, I mean, I wasn't, my jaw didn't hit the floor, but yeah, it was, it was grim. And it wasn't sexy, and it wasn't done like in a sort of, well, it wasn't meant to be anyway, but...
Definitely not supposed to be sexy.
But you know what I mean? It wasn't done as being it's shown, but what I'm saying is it's not done as being passionate. It's shown as it's clumsy. That's kind of like what I like, how they show sex as being, especially for somebody who's just started having sex, as being kind of clumsy and unfulfilling.
Yeah. Can sex in a shed be attractive and passionate? Yeah. Not fulfilling.
Yeah, I'm sure it can under more ideal circumstances, like not in the 1950s.
Sure. What a boring time it must have been to be alive in the 50s, man. Like,
well, no, this was the 50s before rock and roll, because this is like, I think it's 1951 the film's set.
Well, it's quite soon after the Second World War.
Yeah, about 5 years.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Seeing flashbacks of Dad returning from the Navy.
Yeah.
I love the psychiatrist scene.
Oh yeah, that's a great scene. That is a great scene.
Yeah. That was probably one of my highlights.
Of her character.
Yeah. And the guy that played the doctor was just awesome.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I just on a bit of useless trivia. Then I watched My Parents Are Aliens when it was on CITV. Is that kind of before your time at the show? Yeah, like I don't know if you remember the initial. Sorry, were you about to say something, Simon?
No.
All right, the one who played the mum, the alien mum in it, like she was played by a different actress in the first two series, and then her character. Well, I'm guessing the actress didn't want to do it anymore, so her character morphs and becomes a different person. the lassie whose hair she was doing at the beginning during our kind of our training, our sort of our training, our hairdresser training. That's the same actress, Barbara Durkin, I think her name is.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, she was also in Alan Partridge. She played the hotel manager. If you've watched Alan Partridge,
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, Alan Partridge is good. Oh, had any of you seen the main actress in anything after Emily Lloyd?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think she really acts anymore. Well, no, she hasn't actually acted for quite a few years. She is the daughter of the actor Roger Lloyd Pack, who's probably best known for playing Trigger in Only Fools and Horses. Died not too long ago. Yeah, this film was her first role, her first acting role, and Hollywood actually came calling after this, and she started
She
to
was
get.
very good.
Yeah, like, I mean, there wasn't really much going on in British cinema, like at the international stage during the 80s, not until we kind of entered Trainspotting era. So, yeah, so after this, she got roles in quite a number of films with big actors. She was in, I think, her probably best known film role is A River Runs Through It, Stateside, but she had mental health issues, and she also got a kind of reputation for like being hard to work with, and basically the kind of roles dried up, and then she kind of faded into obscurity. So, and it's, you know, it's a shame.
Aye.
What?
A big shame. I mean, she was great in this. I don't know how versatile she'd be. I wonder what else she would play. I'm kind of interested to see what else she would play.
She nearly got cast as. And you've seen Mermaids, the Cher film?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, she nearly got cast as the role of Cher's daughter. The role eventually went to Winona Ryder. She was cast, in fact, and Cher said she didn't look anything, but Cher said to her, she doesn't look like my biological. She doesn't look like she's biologically related to me. And to which she said to her, "You don't look like you're biologically related to you." And apparently that got her the sack. She was also.
I mean, she's not wrong.
I think she was also. I mean, you hear all sorts of people who were considered for roles, but I think she was a contender for playing the role that went to Julia Roberts played in Pretty Woman. So
Dodged
it was
a bullet.
quite. I don't know.
What's her name?
Yeah, I think I saw Pretty Woman once. I don't think I've seen the whole thing. Like, I couldn't say if that's aged well or not.
No, it's not.
Still, how are we for time? Got a wee while.
Do you know that's like perfect podcasting right there when someone goes, "Got a wee while." Wee while yet.
Wee while yet. Anything? Got anybody? Anything to say? Just anything. Say something, for Christ's sake.
Sure, I guess I will. Since is this like a, feminist cinema? I know Callum gets annoyed anytime I bring up this question, but is it?
Everything's feminist to you, McDaniel. Yeah, why not?
I guess I would say so, probably.
It depends what kind of feminist. It depends what kind of feminist you are. There's a spectrum.
This is a pretty feminist piece of media. I mean, but everything can be looked through a feminist lens, you know?
I know.
Unless it's like
doesn't
bad.
Doesn't necessarily mean it should.
That's your opinion, man. I'll be looking through Alvin and the Chipmunks through a feminist lens if I wish.
Power to you. Do you think, Melissa, do you think it's a feminist film?
I mean, while I was watching it, I wasn't thinking that, but I guess I probably would say it was.
What does that really mean? I mean, does it mean it's a film that a feminist could appreciate on those kind of grounds? What does that actually mean, Simon?
Well, I feel like
actually, Daniel,
it'd be more appropriate for the man to answer the feminist question, Callum. No,
yeah.
What, Simon?
Oh, I thought you were actually going to say something.
Well,
Daniel,
and then I realised that would be pretty shite of me. So go ahead.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of hard. Well, the female character who's the protagonist is given respect and authority over her own actions, and she's written in a complex manner and isn't looked down upon either by the writer, the camera, or the director. She's very much her own person, and we see that through her own vision. It's not through the male gaze either. She's not hypersexualized. She's not. It's very, I would argue she's not hypersexualized. I'd say she's a young teen going through sexuality in an incredibly repressed time in British history. She's not seen as sexy. She's not made to look sexy. She's 16.
She is a bit.
Goes through.
When she's wearing suspenders and she's kind of dolled up, like, I don't know.
Did you think that was sexy?
When she was cycling,
I didn't look at that as like, that's sexy.
When she was cycling, she had like a dress up to like her bum, when she was cycling. That's another thing that made me think she was hypersexualized.
I mean, just out of interest, did any of you find her attractive?
Yeah.
She was 16.
I know she was 16, but
Yeah,
two of yous were 16 10 minutes ago.
I know.
Calm, I'm 20 in a couple of months.
Are you?
It's still weird.
Is it? All right.
Yes.
Okay. If you'd seen this film 2 years ago, could you give me a better answer?
I don't know.
What would 16-year-old Simon say?
Yeah, well, the difference is that you're not asking is she sexually attractive. You're not asking if you'd pump this 16-year-old. You're just saying is she attractive? Like, is she a beautiful person?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the question.
She's not ugly. She's objectively attractive young woman. Yeah,
that's the question.
But when I said she's not sexy, you guys went, yeah, she is.
No,
that's what I'm talking about.
I objected to the is she hypersexualized, which I think she is in the film. But I think that's the point.
I don't think she is.
Just flashing.
Maybe it's because it's from a different. I wouldn't count that as hypersexualized though. When I'm talking about hypersexuality, I'm talking about kind of like, it's hard to put into words in 3 minutes.
Quit way ahead. You're dividing our audience, Simon. Outlines are being drawn in the comment section as we speak.
Do you mean we touch as the director, mate? So like, should be wearing like a push-up bra instead of just a normal bra? Do you mean that way, where it's this like we touches to make her more sexual?
It's more complex than that. It's how the whole film views her as an individual. She's just she can be someone who has sex, thinks about sex, is going through a sexuality crisis kind of thing, and wears revealing clothing, but she's not hypersexualized. That's the point. You don't look at her in the garments and go, wow, you're like, it's not, it's a different thing. Do you know what I mean?
What is the difference? Yeah, it's the difference between being sexual and sexualized.
It's like, it's of her own will, but it's not even because of that. It's just the way she's like portrayed and the way she's like shown by the writing. It's not in a kind of, she's not being looked down upon, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
A lot of the times when it's female characters going through something and they are hypersexualized, they're being looked down upon.
Yeah.
I don't think she is hypersexualized.
I thought it was.
I don't think either. I don't think she was sexualized. I think she's a sexual being,
no, I don't think she was
sexual character, but I don't think she was sexualized.
No.
Yeah,
because
I think you've proved me right there. Because prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry, you've not proved me right. I'd say our second film was quite interesting. And actually, one of the best parts about the film, they could have cast some more attractive guys for her to get with, though. Because God, I felt so creeped out watching most of them.
I mean, the guy who takes her to the dance, he's not a bad-looking guy. He's all right.
I got pure creepy vibes, so maybe I'm just skadooshd.
Anyway,
he
folks,
just seems like a kind of young guy who didn't really know what he was doing.
Yeah. Anyway, folks, we'll go to a quick intermission. don't go anywhere. Well, you're not, because you're going to be listening to this. This isn't live.
Just tell you that. And we're back.
Yeah, I didn't want to get hung up on this point, Simon, but just out of interest, just for the people at home and myself, because what's meant by the term the male gaze? Because I hear this term a lot, and I'm never quite sure what it actually specifically means.
Well, when we're talking about the male gaze, we're talking about perceiving not just women, but like society and the world through the perception of a man, even if it's a female protagonist. It's about how the director kind of puts himself kind of in the driving seat, or whoever the writer is, instead of actually kind of like taking time to consider like world out with his kind of lens and his understanding, if you know what I mean. It's a very kind of like, especially when used in the kind of more negative light, it's how like women are hypersexualized and like how women navigate the world and stuff. So when we're talking about male gaze, it's kind of about that, and how women are treated and how women are like seen and represented in media.
Cool. Right, yeah, thanks for that. Like, that's cleared that up. Because
it's something I've struggled with personally. Like when I write and I write female characters, I always feel like it'd be better if I just had like a female version of myself to write with, because I don't have a fucking clue, to be honest. Or that's how I feel sometimes.
God, us men can't do anything right, can we? Sake, Daniel, you make us sound fucking hopeless. Yes, I'm sure there's plenty of good examples of male directors and writers writing female characters well. It can be done.
Aye, Braveheart.
Yeah. Brilliant example. I mean, even 500 Days of Summer, I'd say, is, you know, I've heard people say, oh, this is such a male fantasy. Well, that is like a very, very specific male fantasy.
Well, that's kind of the point of the film, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
It's a male fantasy made up in his head. He's delusional and insane. At least that's what I got.
I never actually seen it, so.
All right. 500 Days of Summer is like a horror film.
Oh, wait, so it's like Fight Club.
It's kind of like that. It's like a commentary on what it's like to, you know, build the idea of a girl up in your head rather than just like getting to know them. I fucking love that film.
Yeah. It's a good film.
Okay.
It's terrifying.
Melissa, do you like 500 Days of Summer? Have you seen it?
So yeah, I have. I've seen it a couple of times. I probably have it on DVD somewhere.
So, right.
Yeah, like that whole manic. I didn't even know what a manic pixie dream girl was till about a year ago, because I just never watched any of those films.
It wasn't really in common vocabulary until about like 2 years ago, to be fair.
Yeah, but even that.
At least it wasn't. Well, have I? Yeah.
But even films with that trope, I never even really kind of watched. I suppose what is Garden State supposed to be an example? Have you seen that film? Zach Braff, not Naomi. I was about to say Naomi Campbell there. Natalie Portman, completely different human being. Yeah, that's apparently an example. I would say, is our character we could say our character's a manic pixie dream girl, but there's no man for her to. Well, there is men lusting over her, but no.
I don't think she's a manic pixie dream girl. No.
No.
She's like a. How do you fucking see? No, that's a problem.
I mean, she's obviously not a manic pixie dream girl, because there's not that male character who's, you know, she's not coming to a life to give him a kick up the arse and say, yeah, enjoy life, talk to girls.
Yeah, but
it's all about her.
Argument. See if like she had a boyfriend.
I don't think you could make the argument she's a manic pixie.
I mean, you could make the argument, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it would be a pretty weak argument.
If she had a boyfriend who she fell
even
in love with.
Then,
I actually felt a bit sorry for Brian. In fact, here's the thing: that scene with her in the Senate pictures with him, I'm still not quite sure what happened there. So they go see a film which is not a Betty Davis, a Betty. What was the actress called? Betty who?
Grable.
Betty Grable film. It's not a Betty Grable film. And then she started crying during an emotional part, and then she ran out. and then he's asking, "Oh, what's wrong? What's wrong? Oh, I'm sorry, I put my arm around you." Because and she said, "It was nice. I really liked it." And then she just plants one on him. Oh, by the way, Melissa, I'm sorry that the copy of the film I sent you, it cut, like there was like some stupid edit there. Like you missed the actual bit where she actually kisses him.
Oh no, I saw that one.
No, but like she actually leaned forward. She pulls him towards her.
All right, okay.
Yeah. Like Melissa doesn't have Prime, so we had to use the YouTube thing. Yeah, like what do you think that scene was all about?
I guess it could highlight her emotional immaturity and her inability to kind of handle serious situations, but I'm not really sure. There's a certain part of the film that I haven't figured out yet, because for a lot of the film, especially that bit and then the kind of therapist scene, I was under the assumption she might be like a sexual assault victim, but that didn't seem to be the case, which I'm, kind of glad that she didn't go through that. But I was under that kind of impression, but because that made sense to me, and like the therapist and how she couldn't, like, when it came to swear words, the kind of more sexualized ones or the ones with sexual connotations, she couldn't say, and I was thinking maybe it was something to do with that. But
No, I think she was just taking him. She was just winding him up.
Yeah.
I kind of felt sorry for Brian because, like, I think if she'd stuck with him, like, she probably would have been in better stead. He seemed like he was just a kid. You know what I mean? And he was obviously, he was more nervous than she was. In fact, most of the characters are more nervous than she is. Yeah.
What was the switch then? Because she is like quite shy when she's with Brian. Then, a couple of scenes later, she's flashing her washing to the bus station.
I think just because I think that's basically it. She just wants, I don't know. There's a nice way to say it. She just wants it. She just wants it. She wants to experience sex. You know what I mean? Right. She wants that experience. She wants to put it out there. She doesn't feel like, she doesn't really see why she should feel ashamed of that or why she should feel prudish about it. And I mean, even that's an interest. You might notice, like, when she's cycling, she actually has her skirt pinned up to show more of her leg.
Yeah, that made me think too, when you were talking about hypersexualized, that's what made me think, oh, well, there's an example of her being hypersexualized.
I think the point is she's just more sexual than the average girl her age would be.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, more willing to be open about it.
Sure.
Also, I had to think about that, where she got the money for the nice clothes and the pram and all that at the very end. Well, given that this film is inspired by a woman who went on to be a lawful madam, maybe she went on the game. Like, maybe that's it. She became a high class prostitute whilst heavily pregnant.
And 16, 17, Callum, that's grim.
I know it is grim, but you know what I mean. Life is grim.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man!
I mean, it's not impossible.
I know it's not impossible. That's why it's grim.
Yeah.
Poor child.
Let's hope that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just look at my notes, see if there's anything that sort of stuck out to me.
I loved the hokey cokey scene as well. That
Really?
had me buckled. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
Me too. I totally forgot about
that. Yeah, it just sort of came out of nowhere. I loved it.
Yeah.
By the way, it's the hokey pokey. Don't know what.
No, it's the hokey cokey.
No, it's not. I don't know where these English kids are getting their ideas from, but
it's
hokey cokey, Daniel.
It's got a C in it.
Sorry, I forgot I was in here with a bunch of English people, but it's the hokey pokey.
Just because they say hokey pokey in Paisley doesn't mean it's right.
I think hokey pokey something else. And even that scene, like when, like, obviously in a kind of affectionate, friendly way, when other women are kissing him, like just on the cheek and that. I can't even remember. I think, is he called Eric, the projectionist who takes the bets, who's the philandering gentleman? Eric. Yeah, I think his name is Eric. Let me just check IMDb. It doesn't matter. Like, she kind of when she sees other women kissing her, like even in just a completely innocuous way, like she kind of gives them this kind of jealous eye.
Yeah.
Because I often wondered why she. Yeah, did you not notice that the scene where they're doing the hokey cokey, and that's also when her dad clocks, because she's actually much friendlier to him, that something's going on between them. And I also wondered why her dad.
You go.
I also wondered why her dad didn't run down and kick the shit out of him once he realised what was going on.
I think it's clear that her dad, I know, like at the end, like it's like they say he loves her, but I don't think he cares about her that much.
Or he cares too much about his own reputation.
Yeah, I think he's very. No matter whether he cares for his daughter or not, he cares more about himself and how he's presented in society than he'll ever care about her.
It's the 50s.
Yeah.
Not an excuse.
Men still battled other men who touched their daughters in the 50s.
Yeah.
I wasn't, I'm not an apologist for the dad, guys. I'm just making a joke, don't worry.
Actually, about 3 years ago, they had the 30th anniversary, and they held it in the same cinema in the Dome, still standing. That would have been interesting to go to.
Sure, I mean, the thing with the dad, right, is that is he like that bad of a dad if she's gone back to him at the very end?
I mean, no, I don't think he's a terrible dad. I think it's just more the case of he doesn't really know how to connect with his daughter. And his daughter, look, let's not beat about the bush. She has got problems. Like, the way she behaves isn't rational or healthy a lot of the time. Like, she's an exhibitionist, and I'm not saying obviously there's like a degree in which it's okay to be an exhibitionist, but she kind of puts herself in in potentially dangerous situations.
Definitely, yeah, very much so.
I mean, she got basically I'm saying, like, the way she behaves, it isn't. I'm not saying it's not how am I saying this? She gets herself into bother. She doesn't do herself favors. Is basically what I'm saying. Like, I don't think, like the narrative of this film isn't judging her, but it's not at the same time saying, yeah, she didn't do anything wrong. That's basically what I'm saying. You're making faces, Simon. Explain.
I'm thinking.
Yes.
I think she does have some level of behavioral problem, and probably if she existed, like, as a character, like these days, it would probably be something like ADHD or something. But I feel like if her father just, tried with her, or tried to connect her, understand, or like at least gave her some more patience, because we're seeing he's very dismissive of her even as a young child. So you get the feeling that he's been like that her entire life and has never really attempted to connect. So I feel like if he'd kind of put more effort in with her, you kind of get the idea that, like, that could have been eased slightly, because of a lot of her. She is an exhibitionist because she needs attention, because she's been kind of neglected as a child, emotionally at least.
What's going on in your house, Simon?
No, that's the fireworks. I was hoping you could hear, but they are quite loud.
All right, I thought somebody was moving furniture or something.
It's either that or BAE Systems.
Yeah, I've had wee fannies letting off fireworks in the back lane, and they're landing in people's gardens.
What a smart idea it is to record a podcast like the Saturday after Guy Fawkes night.
Yeah, and the night of the election.
Elected.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Can we talk about that? Are we allowed to talk about that?
No.
No.
I
by the way.
Yeah.
No politics, no sex work. What is this, Callum?
I know. Like,
No, but
what a weight off your shoulders. I've not talked to anyone about this, so
nah, I just
it's no
don't care
one.
anymore.
Or do you know? I feel like a huge sense of relief.
Yeah. Well, it's not over yet. Not quite. Well, it is technically over, but
Jesus Christ.
This is
up
good.
your bum. Her seemed to be our favorite swear, our favorite insult / curse. That scene where
Yeah.
she's jumping about, leaping about in the back green, shouting "up your bum," yeah,
Yeah.
and she shows her arse to the neighbour. That's a good scene.
It's good. Feel like it balances that kind of like, like her character and her kind of like very rambunctious personality, while also like while she's going through like Jesus Christ, the early stages of adulthood, her favorite kind of, I'm sorry, that's really distracting. Jesus fucking Christ. While she's going through like these like early stages of adulthood, like her favorite thing to say is like inherently very childish and quite, innocent in a way, even though it's not deemed that then. It's like when we're watching it with like in this time, it's an interesting juxtaposition in her character.
Yeah, I think that's like kind of the main thing. It's the one half of, like I said, she is this very sort of, even in a very naive adolescent way, a very sexual character, but at the same time, she is very much a child. And like I says, the casting of Emily Lloyd, an actual 16-year-old, kind of paints that, because like even at 16, you've still not quite grown into your face. So she's still actually physically growing, like she's still developing physically. So yeah, I think it's just all those like the performance, how she's written, and the fact that it's an actual 16-year-old playing her just really kind of complements all these things.
Yeah, it drives home the point.
Yeah. What did you think of this? I mean, I suppose we better touch on technical elements. Yeah, like we're all studying film and television, sort of the technical aspect. What do you think of it as a piece of filmmaking on a technical level?
Well, it was very beautifully shot, very visually appealing. I liked, the costuming was gorgeous. I know that's not like technical element, but I really liked the costuming. I thought that yellow dress at the end was absolutely gorgeous, and it was really like, I loved what it represented and like how they'd chosen quite a kind of young color for her to show that like she hadn't changed that much, but it was a much more mature figure they put her in. I loved that. I loved how it contrasted with the other costumes and the other dresses she had during the rest of the film. The costuming in the film I thought was brilliant, along with like the rest of the visual elements. I thought it was really nicely shot. Yeah, that's what I've got to say.
Daniel, Melissa, anything to add there?
Yeah, again, just beautiful film. Where was it set? Do you know, or do you know where it was shot?
It's set in
Brighton, maybe.
Not Brighton. It's set in a town in it was set in a coastal town in Sussex. Let me just get it up here. Where is it?
Because yeah, they use.
I don't think they actually. Sorry, go on.
No, even like there was parts. I don't know if it was just the parts where they were doing that shot behind her, where they were doing that pan. Where it goes to like the flashbacks. But you could hear the waves in the background of those shots. I don't know if they did that throughout the movie or if it was just for those, but I thought that was really cool. And then the cinema shots as well. I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah. I think it was mainly filmed in Worthing, but it was also in Brighton and other Sussex towns of Bognor Regis, or just Bognor for short. And I think she mentioned, I think Eastbourne, is Eastbourne in, I'm trying to think, is Eastbourne in Sussex? I don't know, but yeah, just kind of that general area. Yeah, I think they used the location really well. Like, it did.
Very English.
It was very English. specifically very Southern English.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, I mean, I wasn't alive at the time, but it seemed like a pretty good period piece. Like it didn't, you know what I mean? It didn't feel like this is people in the 80s trying to replicate the 50s, because sometimes you see films like that and you can get the sense of people from a certain time trying to replicate a certain time, but the thing from that time just kind of shines through.
The important thing is it's a kind of universal message that can be like adapted to any kind of time. It's not it's not like heavy on the period, you know. You get
It is a
repressed
bit.
well, you get repressed societies all through time, you know, and like even now it could be a story told. Maybe like some things changed, yeah, but it's still applicable, you know. I think them not like weighing on nostalgia as a lot of people do right now. I think that was like a really strong point, and them just kind of it really is just the backdrop to like this bigger story. At least it was for me.
I don't know about that. I think if it was set now or even set in the 80s, like, it would be a different story, because attitudes to sex and even had changed a hell of a lot since then. Like, even in the attitudes to sex.
Rural towns, man. It's
maybe.
Yeah.
I also like the music. There's kind of two music, the musical piece at the start that you hear, which is called "I'm Still Stuck in It" or "Still Stuck in a Dream." You actually hear that 3 times throughout the film, and the second time is in a completely different rendition. I don't know if you noticed when she goes dancing with, I think he's called David. It's the same song. The guy comes up and sings. It's actually the same song, but it's a different rendition. Yeah.
That's cool.
That guy that was sang that song looked a lot like Ewan Bremner.
I thought that. He looked like Spud out of Train Spotting. Yeah. He was a dead ringer for him. Or Ewan Bremner's a dead ringer for him, because Ewan Bremner's obviously going to be younger than him. Yeah.
Overall, by the way, I've not said anything about the technicalities of the filmmaking. That overall, the directing and all that, the camera work was pretty fun and stellar. Maybe not stellar, but good. I just kind of thought it was boring at points. You know, maybe no, the storytelling let down the visuals. I think, like the actual script itself, I was just a bit bored at points.
Yeah, I'll admit, looking back at it, maybe the pacing, like, kind of after she kind of breaks up with David, and I feel like it goes to a bit of a standstill. In fact, after she falls out with her dad and leaves, I feel like the plot comes to a bit of a standstill. Like, it kind of meanders a bit. Then she has that big scene in the tea rooms where she's on the table shouting "I love Willies."
Yeah, how have we not talked about that yet? That's such a great scene.
Yeah, the scene where she has the kind of big to do with her dad. Like, I felt like the way that scene kind of came out, like the sort of lead up to that scene, like, he goes down and he sits down and then he starts lecturing her. I felt like in that situation, if he'd come and sat down and then just wait to be served by her, he would try and approach it with a bit more tact, a bit more diplomacy. I felt like him instantly attacking her just seemed a bit, I don't know. I felt like they were trying to rush to the confrontation.
I think that kind of shows the character, like who he is as a person. It might have been a bit more dramatic than it should have been, but I think it emphasizes the point that he's never like really tried with her, and he doesn't see any point in doing now. You know, she's his daughter, she's his property, kind of thing. You know?
Yeah, it seems weird that he would come all the way to find her, then he would just start lecturing her right away.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
What exactly did he expect? Sorry, Daniel.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's the back up Simon's point. That's the type of guy he is. He is just a fucking dick. That's the way people were back then, especially dads or men that thought they knew it all, you know?
Yeah. If my dad was still alive, my dad was a youngster in the 50s. My dad was very old when I was born. I mean, he was younger than the character of Linda, but had I shown this film to him, I'd be interested to hear what his take on it would be. You know, if a lassie her age was carrying on like that back then, like, in your experience, how would she have been? What would the reaction have been? Did you know any girls like that? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, she is an extreme character in a way. Do you not think so? Like, I mean,
like compared to like her environment, yeah.
I mean, obviously, I've met people
Yeah.
like her, but I mean, even if somebody was behaving like that today, like people would think, okay, calm down.
Well, yeah, was this a cry for attention at the end of the day, though, wasn't it?
Mm.
So it's a combination of cry for attention, kind of unlooked at trauma, and probably like undiagnosed ADHD. Like, she does have behavioral issues, but it's not really kind of her fault, to be honest. And under that is probably a kind of still a very exuberant personality, you know?
Oh, speaking of which, on a slight tangent, that brief scene when she's at you see her dad waiting in the hall while she's at the psychiatrist's office, and you see a nurse leading a mentally disabled man down a flight of stairs, and he's singing "Goosey Goosey Gander" to himself. I kind of thought that, even though it's just a small bit part, I thought that guy's mannerisms were pretty accurate. Like, you know, I just thought that was. I'm guessing he was an actor and he wasn't actually mentally disabled, but yeah, I just thought that as a touch. I just thought that was quite good acting for such a very, very brief role.
Yeah, it was really nicely framed as well, with the dad in the foreground, him coming down the stairs in the background. But
Yeah.
should we wrap
Right.
up?
I think so. If we've got anything else, if anybody's got any last points to make
On the hoops?
Don't think so.
Nope.
Okay. Right. Well, that was Wish You Were Here, and we've had a discussion, and I did the majority of the talking. So I'm sorry for hogging the limelight, guys. Still, yeah, Melissa. Once again, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hopefully, it
Thanks
won't be
for
the last
joining.
time.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah,
Did you hear that?
we did hear that.
Yes. On the hoops. All right.
Yeah. Saima, I think it's your turn next week.
Okay, I'll think of a film.
Okay. See you later, guys. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.